Hi guys, welcome to Life of Education's first episode of the podcast. This podcast is going to coincide with the website that myself, Keith O'Malley Farrell, and Caroline Leon have created.
Hi.
Hi. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, so my name is Caroline Leon, and we together created a Life of Education, and it started about almost 2 years ago now. So about 2.5, almost 3 years ago, I had a really severe rock climbing accident. So I was climbing an outdoor wall unharnessed, and I fell about 7 meters onto gravel and rock. And when I fell, my right foot came out of my body, so I had an open fracture. I fractured or shattered my left foot and the right foot. I shattered my ilium, my pubic bone snapped off, and a segment of my spine just exploded and it went everywhere in my abdomen. So I basically was rushed to hospital and spent the next 2 months in a hospital bed having consecutive surgeries. And after that, I spent another 6 months at home in a hospital bed and then doing lots of physiotherapy and lots of, I was seeing an osteopath, a physio, was doing hydrotherapy, acupuncture, having lots of massage done, and seeing all of these, very comprehensive holistic therapies. And at the time, I was looking to start to get healthy and start to move and start to learn to walk. So about a year after, I was recommended to you by a friend of both of ours, Suzanne Radford, who was on Dubai Eye. She recommended that I see you because you were doing lots of rehab for lots of people in Dubai, and that's when we met.
Yeah. My background originally was originally in the personal training world, and then went back to university and did a sport rehabilitation degree in London, and then spent a couple of years in professional football in London, and then did 2 years rehabbing injured soldiers that were coming back from Afghanistan. So a lot of the stuff that I had exposure to was the complex trauma, was injuries, all sorts of broken bones, broken bodies, blast injuries, your standard injuries as well. So when the phone call came in and I was greeted by this girl talking about iliums and ischiums and pubic bones and T12, L1, L2 evaporation and calcaneus destruction, and it's pretty serious, but it wasn't as it was fine. Let's go. So we got you in. The first session, I remember I asked you to just simply lift your leg, and when you lifted your leg, your foot just did not cooperate, and almost like you had no sensation, no moving, no coordination through there. It just hugged the standing leg as you lifted your knee in kind of a marching position. So we spent quite a while on that. Trying to fix that, and I remember at the end of the session I felt quite bad because I felt like apologetic about not really having covered much, because we had to really suss out the issue with that single hip. And I think your response at the time was that it was the first time somebody had addressed the actual problem rather than just giving you generic rehab exercises.
Well, up until that time, I had seen a lot of other PTs, and just so everybody understands, I was going to lots of different PTs that were recommended by lots of different friends, and I had what we call Trendelenburg gait at the time. So because my right hip was so badly broken, I couldn't actually move my right leg for about 5 months, and I had lots of electrotherapy on it, and lots of acupuncture and lots of manual manual therapy. So by the time I was able to walk, I wasn't able to put a lot of weight on it. So I was walking with crutches or with one crutch, or I would walk very poorly for a long time. And because I have a bit of an attitude like just do it, I was still walking around and still doing stuff even though my right leg wasn't able to support my body. So I'd gone to lots of different PTs, and I was just really shocked. I was given weight training. Some PTs were making me squat and lift weights, and as soon as I pulled the weight in front, my back just went like spasmed and it just ached. I had another PT put me on a power plate. Mind you, at the time I had both my feet reconstructed and they were just metal inside, and it just made me cry. And I had lots of different experiences with various PTs, and obviously I'd see them, I'd do 2 sessions, and then I'd never go back because it made me realize how poorly qualified they all were to really understand just different cases. And as a result of that, when we met, we started talking about, well, I was sharing my experience with you and telling you what some of the other PTs were doing, and we were both just very shocked at the industry. And I think in a plea to really want to improve the industry as a whole, because we're both in the fitness profession, so we want to be able to know that our colleagues are also reputable and that we have faith and confidence in them, and in being able to elevate our profession, it elevates them as well. So we wanted to really kind of band together, am I saying this right? And be able to help everybody as a whole and really find affordable education. So this is where this whole idea came about.
Yeah, part of the original concept came from as well. Caroline, do you want to talk about your kind of the yoga teacher training stuff?
Yeah, so I obviously I have a Bachelor of Medical Science. I majored in anatomy and physiology, and then when I was at university, all of my friends had jobs in bars, and I wasn't really into that. So I had a colleague who had actually my sister's best friend owned the most amazing Pilates studio in Sydney. It was called Pilates Moves, and they used to do teacher training programs, and I became a Pilates teacher. So I was at university on the side, I was teaching Pilates, and I ended up teaching Pilates and yoga throughout most of my life. And when I moved to Dubai, I started the Pilates Moves teacher training here in Dubai. And we were looking for someone to be able to teach an anatomy course. And at the time, I hadn't been working for about 1.5 years, and I wanted to get back into working and into teaching. And I asked you if you wanted to teach and develop a whole anatomy course. And
yeah, and I agreed before I knew what I was getting myself in for. I do have one of my lecturers in my university days made a point of saying, if you want to make a real difference to your clients, like if you want to really go that extra 5%, 4%, 3% in your practice and make a difference in you as a professional and your competitors, you have to know your anatomy. You have to know your anatomy inside out, and if you know it, it will come through in your day to day. So naturally from there, my anatomy was quite in depth, quite strong. So I thought, until I sat down and started to create a full map of the human body, from the hip to the foot, from the shoulder to the hand, and then from the back of the pelvis through to the top of the neck.
Well, to be honest, you did a really good job, and hopefully all of you guys get to see the final product really soon on ALOE. Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
Yeah, so from there, it was such a hard job to set it, to create it. We said, look, let's film this, and we're going to have to put it online in some shape or form. And then the light bulb just went off that there's lots of experts in their field who have expertise, who are kind of embedded in companies, in clinics, in gyms, in science labs, that they're not really able to share their knowledge. The knowledge that they have, they may be able to package it for a seminar once a year or twice a year, but that's not really convenient for the global population. So what we decided... Yeah, so what we decided to do was, let's reach out to the people that we know are top of their fields, and let's ask them to create some content so we can act as almost like the distributor and filter it out on an online platform to people who want to continue to learn, who want access to the greatest minds at the moment. So.
Well, I think just to premise that as well, I think a lot of what we were discussing at the time was really about how we all had friends in this industry and everybody had this thirst for knowledge. Everyone wanted to know more about rehab or more know about pregnancy, but when the courses did come to Dubai, they were very, very expensive, and a lot of the international speakers didn't come to Dubai.
Yeah.
So there was all of these yoga teachers, Pilates teachers, PTs, strength and conditioning coaches that really had a thirst for knowledge and really wanted to provide the best thing for their clients, but didn't have a means to be able to get that education that was accessible and affordable. And then once that ball started rolling for us, it was, okay, let's do this and this and this, and it spiraled.
Yeah, it's grown from there. So some of the sections that we have on the site will be sort of anatomy and physiology, like we said. We'll have a female development section, which we'll talk about, with the business of fitness, which is kind of aimed at helping individuals grow their brand and just push their name and be able to kind of create a bigger reach for their expertise. Yoga and Pilates section, strength conditioning, some sports science in there as well. Rehab, there's going to be a nutrition section. Do you want to talk a little bit about the female development section?
Yeah, of course. So female development is really about teaching everybody about the female body. And most people, when they learn about physical fitness, it's very male driven. So we wanted to be able to showcase how you can properly train women and just understanding some of the considerations that women navigate throughout the course of their life. So menstrual cycles, understanding puberty, understanding menopause, understanding elderly women, and really being able to provide people with just in-depth knowledge on those particular areas. And something that we really felt passionate about was pregnancy. In this day and age, it's so important for everyone to really know about pregnancy and to understand, okay, well, this is what happens. How can we provide the utmost care for a woman during this time? But for her not to be locked up in a room, so she can still go and train and she can still do everything everything in the gym, but just suited to her body. And a lot of people shy away from pregnancy or from training pregnant women because they don't understand the body adequately. So being able to do that, like I'm sure if you did a course on that, it would change how you treat some of your clients. Yeah,
I mean, for that one, the content that we're gonna have is it's for the stage for people just who learn a little bit more and be aware of the kind of environment they're stepping into, not just with pregnancy, but also with sort of menopausal women, with young female athletes, with female psychology, very different to male psychology in the fitness world, with this sort of aesthetics pressure they're on people. So there's going to be a whole lot in there. The aim, again, is just to give people a taste of what's out there, and when they want to go and sort of specialize in pregnancy, they can go and they can get onto a pregnancy course and they can get the full certificate and they can advertise that they are a pre-postnatal specialist.
Yeah, and for clients also to feel confidence in that, like they do a prenatal course or a postnatal course, and for clients to be able to really feel that they can trust their PT, and know that they have the adequate knowledge to take them through a whole training program, and for all of those exercises and that protocol to be safe for them. So that was one of the areas that we really wanted to focus on. One of the others was the business of fitness.
Yeah, so from my own experience, being a geeky sports scientist in an organization like the British military, where I just have to show up at 8 o'clock in the morning and my clients are queuing up and they're all booked in through the medical system, and I leave at 5 p.m. and I go home. Moving there into a somewhat freelance role where I'm now paid on a commission base, working all sorts of different hours, and I have to drum up my own business myself. It's pretty difficult for people to get started when you don't know how to market yourself. And it's not something that you really think about before you before you commit to a career in the health and fitness world, whether it's a PT or whether it's a yoga instructor or a Pilates instructor.
Particularly because everything's online these days. So if you're not someone who's like online savvy, it's a bit challenging to navigate.
Yeah. It's not even that. It's being able to sell yourself, being able to sit across a table from somebody and say, look, this is what I can do for you. This is the benefit. This is how you will change your life. And at the end of it, like there needs to be a payment structure. There needs to be a price. There needs to be a sale. So the sales side of it is one very difficult thing that a lot of people have. It's a challenge that a lot of instructors face because it's an industry where they want to help people. They're not the type of money grabbing, personality. They're just there. They're here. You're here. Let's go. But part of the sales then is marketing. How you market yourself. How do you show future clients what you're able to do?
And then understanding your unique selling points. What is that for you? Understanding what your niche is. Being able to carve a spot out in the industry for yourself. Those are all things that are part of the courses that we have on offer there to help people.
Yeah, and then like you kind of touched on a few minutes ago, in this day and age, a huge amount of what you do goes online.
Yeah, everything, really.
Yeah.
Everything.
So how do you differentiate yourself from your competitor, from someone else who's online? They're doing the same thing. It's pretty dog eat dog. Do you go down the route of showing yourself trained? Do you take the mirror selfies and show people a sort of a very difficult aesthetic to achieve, or do you go down the route of, look, let's talk more, let's write blogs, let's show people my knowledge, let me show you what my clients are doing in a session, let's show transformation pictures, this is my client before and after?
What's really interesting about the business of fitness, and we've come across this a lot, is that you can have professionals that are not that haven't been in the industry for a very long time but are very social media savvy, and they're the ones that are getting all the clients. And then you have other professionals that have this immense wealth of knowledge, and because they're not social media savvy or they don't understand how to market themselves, they are not out there and the market doesn't really doesn't know them. And so being able to generate client leads by teaching people how do you promote yourself in a very ethical and honorable way, and really true to who you are and what you want to provide for people out there. Yeah,
and also explaining what a Google advert is, or a Facebook advert, or how to push, how to target the paid advertising that you do on social media, Instagram, Facebook. Do you use Twitter? It's a very, very complex world once you go into the online advertising world. So when it's explained in a way geared towards fitness, yoga, Pilates, teachers, trainers, coaches, we're hoping that it'll take a lot of the stress and anxiety out of the fear that people have of working for themselves and struggling and having to be up in the gym at 6 a.m. until 8 p.m. for the rest of their lives. So that's going to be one. Do you want to talk a little bit about we just kind of touched on that, what the yoga and Pilates teachers have to look forward to?
Yeah, well, so yoga and Pilates is kind of my little niche. And so yoga and Pilates is different from other segments of the fitness industry in that they've carved their own kind of specialty in that sense. So yoga has the Yoga Alliance and Pilates has the Pilates Alliance, and they're they're methodologies that are very, very grounded in their history and grounded in their practice and their breath work, and they have philosophies that are associated with both of them. And what we wanted to do with both of those courses is to be able to find subtopics within them to assist people who are yoga teachers. So for example, if you're a PT, you might not be interested in understanding pranayama. But if you're a yoga teacher, of course, you want to know that's one of the 8 limbs of yoga, so you want to know more about pranayama. So things like that. Same thing in Pilates. We talk a lot about the core in Pilates, so being able to to give people a deeper understanding of breath work and the Pilates breathing, which is very different to other forms of breathing. Things that were specific to those two topics, so specific to yoga, specific to Pilates. So pre and postnatal courses for Pilates and for yoga, maybe other subtopics within those areas. Yeah, that's basically about that whole subtopic. I think after that we wanted to really understand sports science. That was another big topic program that we had, and maybe you can elaborate on that.
Yeah, that came from the scenario where in the world today you have your pro athletes and you have your amateur athletes, and then you have your weekend warriors, the people who go to the gym, but it's really the sport that they play at the weekend that they want to be good at. They want to be able to continue to play the older they get. So while their income and their salaries and their family stability is not dependent on it, they want to be able to stay fit and healthy for it. So a recreational tennis player will want to move around a gym different to a 21-year-old bodybuilder style client. So understanding the different needs that go along with sport-specific goals is kind of where this grew out of. So whether you're a runner and you want to improve your running technique, we have a gait analysis section on the website that will look at how your client how they should walk, the different stages of gait, sort of initial contact, toe off, mid-swing, different ways the hips should position, different arm swings, and then when they walk, when they run, what it should look like, and then different abnormalities. So if you see somebody with a rotating hip, or someone is not landing correctly onto their feet, how can you identify that? Even with the technology today, with a slow-mo video, how we can look at a slow-mo video and break it down and say, okay, we need to work more on this particular piece of the stride or that piece, and then how you can train for that, how you can improve that in the gym.
Corrective exercises.
The correct corrective exercises. So there's going to be a whole section that we're hoping to attract some big names on that section from the UK and possibly from the US when we get very specific, because once you kind of get into the world of strength conditioning as it really is, it's a very scientific based practice. There's a lot of research in there's a lot of money in sport that filters down into the research behind how you get the most out of your top athletes, and just like Formula One filters down into your everyday road car, it's the same kind of thing. The sports science research filters down into the general population, so we hope to get some of the best people in the world to come and feature on that one. We do have, for the sports injuries, or for the injuries rather, in the rehab section, we do have a very good university course coordinator coming over from the UK. Do you want to talk a bit about that?
Yeah, so I think this is really the origin of how a life of education started. This is what we wanted to bring to everyone initially. We wanted to bring everybody, because obviously you know my story now. What we wanted to do was really not allow for that to happen, or provide access so that people could be able to find really good rehab knowledge that was accessible and affordable. So this is kind of the core, should we say, of how a life of education started. So what the Rehab Course is about is a really holistic and comprehensive understanding of injuries and, well, I think, injuries basically, and then with some corrective exercises and...
Yeah, a lot of it will have to do with sort of getting an understanding of the principles of injury, as opposed to, this is an ankle injury, this is what happens, and then these are the exercises that you should do.
Or there's a very linear approach or biomechanical approach to rehab that sometimes is, okay, you have a disc injury, so you do no loaded spinal flexion. And when you start to really think about that, is that really true? Because people are going to do spinal flexion every single facet of their life. So would we as trainers avoid spinal flexion entirely if people are going to pick up their kids or they're going to pick up their groceries? So really understanding rehab in a very different way.
Yeah, I mean, we're not trying to coach people to how to be a full-on physiotherapist, but what we want to do is give people the confidence that when they are training a client for a long, prolonged period of time, and the client begins to present with a little bit of shoulder pain or a little bit of back pain, there's no need to panic. You've got options as long as you understand mechanisms and you understand potentially what could be going on. And that also factors in not just biomechanically, like Caroline said. We're talking about kind of neurological and psychological stresses. Yeah. So, you know, if this person is showing up to a session in the evening time and they just feel pain and they haven't felt pain before, perhaps there's a psychosocial issue underlying all of that you just need to be aware of. That.
Yeah, or stress.
Exactly, yeah. You don't necessarily need to panic straight away, or you don't, instead of, some people may either continue to push their client because they think the client, you know, if we push, we should be okay. Or, you know, just get a real grounded understanding in the basic mechanisms, and then how that will apply to different injuries, whether it's lower limb, upper limb, and different tissues.
And obviously, because Keith is very knowledgeable on this topic, from that rehab course, we're going to do a side segment which is all about the corrective exercises. And I think under the umbrella of rehab as well, we wanted to bring you guys some in-depth lectures on pain and understanding pain, and then being able to understand the parameters that cause pain and how you can alleviate it as well. So that was under the whole umbrella of rehab, which obviously we both feel very passionate about. Another topic or another core topic that we wanted to bring to all of you is nutrition, and a lot of that will be by Ben Coomer, one of our partners in the UK. Maybe you can elaborate on that.
Yeah, he's got a full course lined up called Body Type Nutrition, which you have done.
It's good.
Yeah, and it's nutrition in quite a digestible way, because nutrition, in one sense, it's still an evolving science. There's a lot of research that's still being developed, and there's a lot of conflicting research.
Yeah, exactly what I was going to say. There's so much out there, and you see all this stuff on Instagram, and it's like, is this real? Is this true? Am I just looking at a photo? Am I going to follow the advice of this person that may or may not know what they're talking about?
Yeah, it's difficult, and it's one of the, like any sort of training program, any sort of recovery process can't happen unless there's adequate fuel from whatever the endeavor, the sport, the gym.
There's also that, like, I don't know if it's a myth, but you always hear a lot that to change your body, it really is all about 80% nutrition, 20% training. I don't know, maybe you can, is that true?
Yeah, you can't out-train a bad diet.
Okay, so if we follow that premise, then nutrition is huge.
Yeah.
And so obviously this is why we have Ben Coomer coming in and helping us with that.
Yeah, and one of the things that that the nutrition industry suffers from is, again, there's a lot of money to be made from a lot of unhealthy foods. So the money that's behind the research over the last kind of 50, 60 years has been quite mixed. So now that more and more people are getting into health and fitness, and more anecdotal evidence is being able to be shared online. Someone got these great results through eating chicken nuggets every morning. You know, it's just a whole cloudy, murky field. So
all the shakes.
Yeah,
you see loads of people selling shakes,
Juice Plus, all those little guys. So it's a minefield for people. I find it a minefield as well. I have a limited amount of advice I can give to people, and then when people need really specifics and they want to really, really commit to a diet, I have a nice network of people that I can refer them off to, because there's only so much that as a trainer you can specialize in. So getting an understanding of the basics and getting an understanding of the detailed dietary requirements for completely different populations, people with genetics who grew up in the East, people with genetics who grew up in the West, it's very, very different. So it's not an easy field to migrate.
Just from doing Ben's course, it's so easy to follow. It's really, it brings you back to basics, understanding macros, understanding stress, understanding different people's bodies. So in that regard, it's going to be for everyone, and it will take everybody on a journey from not understanding nutrition at all to really being able to say, okay, well, this is what I'm going to do for my body, this is what I'm going to do for my clients. And it's a great way to be able to give your clients something else, and really adequate advice, as opposed to, oh, you need to eat chicken and broccoli every evening, that's how you're going to lose weight. So we're really, really fortunate to be able to have Ben on board with us. He's also doing several courses for ALOE. He'll be doing a female development section as well. Some dabbling into some business of fitness, and then obviously his body type nutrition course, which we're really proud to be able to sell on ALOE. Yeah,
but he's a very entrepreneurial guy, so his business of fitness section, we're still waiting for it to be finalized, but I've been to a live seminar with him where he speaks about knowing your brand, and I took some very, very important to take home messages from that. We hope to have him on the podcast as well at some point in the future.
Very soon. So I guess now we're up to our podcast. So why we decided to do this for you guys. Basically, obviously, now that you've seen, we've got loads of courses and loads of topics that we wanted to talk about. And not all of them are ready for huge lectures, but we wanted to be able to bring the podcast to you guys so that we could essentially have really great discussions about lots of different areas and lots of different topics.
So what we're going to have with the podcast and the guests that we have on are going to be different kind of live. We'll have a live on YouTube if we can, but we hope to have different conversations with the people who will feature as educators. We'll have some Q&As, we'll have some panels where they talk to each other about different ideas, the kind of conflicting researches, just getting large kind of roundtable discussion groups.
Especially because, so we have, for example, one of the courses that we have with Joe Maynard is about gait analysis. And Joe is extremely knowledgeable physio on gait and being able to train athletes and correct their gait. However, there's a lot of conversation in the physio world about barefoot running and about the shoes and about what type of shoes people should wear. So when we started to look at all of the individual courses, we wanted people to really have an understanding that it's not our way or the highway. So we wanted to be able to say to people, okay, well, there's conversation here. Let's hear about it. Let's understand that although we're watching Joe's lecture on gait analysis and it's extremely knowledgeable and factual, there is a conversation that's happening about gait and about footwear and about understanding, and there's both sides of the camps. There's very knowledgeable physios that are very much for barefoot running, and there's physios on the other end that are very much about proper corrective and proper footwear and insoles, and so lots of different things. And there was a lot of other topics that we had that had very similar conversations that were going around.
Yeah, so we'll have some group stuff, we'll have some interviews, we'll have some Q&As. We hopefully have some small little sound snippets for the business of fitness, just kind of giving people little pointers.
Maybe meeting some people that did really well, were able to market themselves really well and navigate the minefield of understanding the fitness industry and promoting themselves properly on all platforms.
Yeah, some of the end users, some of the students will have on and kind of hear their success stories. So the website launch then?
So 6th of May this year, so we're really, really excited about that. It's been almost 2 years in the making, and obviously we've been working really hardly behind the scenes to get all of these courses ready, and also to get them ready and bring them to you at the best quality imaginable. So we've gone backwards and forwards when things weren't quite right. Let's start again. How can we make this for you guys even better? And the podcast was a way for us to be able to do that for you guys too. Yeah.
So we'll have some more podcasts on very soon once we launch. Hopefully by the time you hear this, we're up and running. And we'd love to hear your feedback. So
and your thoughts and topic ideas, that would also be greatly appreciated. What you guys want to hear about, maybe the conversations that you'd like to have, that would also be really cool to know. 6th of May, check us out, alifeofeducation.com.
And we're also on as you probably know by now, Instagram, A Life of Education, Facebook, A Life of Education.
And YouTube, A Life of Education. Yeah.
Perfect. Okay. Anything else?
No, that's it. Thank you
All right.
so much, guys,
Thank
for
you.
listening.
You see us again soon. Bye.
Bye.